Hello, my name's Donna. Do you like my model bird? It's a heron. I borrowed it to try it out. This is how you make the wings move, by pushing down the tail. It's good, isn't it? Actually, I better put this down because it's really heavy. I can make a bird shape with my hands. Watch what I do. First, put your hands like this with your thumbs on the outside. Then you move your hands together and link your thumbs. So your thumbs become the bird's body and your hands are the wings. Let's take off and fly. Ready? Up high in the air. Well, I can't go any further, so bring your bird back down again, gently without crashing it. We're going to have a song now about flying free, and if you want to, join in with your bird like me.
Flying free, soaring high, like an arrow in the sky, pushing the winds behind me. Flying free, I'm flying free. Flying to find the straw and twigs, to build a good nest for my chicks. Flying for food to make them strong. Join me as I fly along. Flying free, soaring high, like an arrow in the sky, pushing the winds behind me. Flying free, I'm flying free. Flying away from winter snows, flying to where the warm sun goes. Come and fly and sing my song. Join me as I fly along. Flying free, soaring high, like an arrow in the sky, pushing the winds behind me. Flying free, I'm flying free.
This is our story today. It's called The Singing Bird. I got it from the library. It's about a magic bird, so I've come out here to this magic place. It doesn't look magic, but watch what happens when I open the book. A magic bird. Now we can really imagine ourselves in Africa where the birds are lovely bright colours and it's hot every day. Just look at the sun. In fact, it's so hot, I'm going to have to get cool somehow. I know, I'll fan myself with a leaf. Hello? A fan made of feathers. Well, anything can happen in a magic place. That's better. Let's start the story then, shall we? Under the palm tree sat the king, whilst overhead the sun burnt down. My, it is very hot today, and I'm so thirsty. And he called his servant to fetch him a pitcher of water from the riverbank. Servant, he said, do go and fetch me a pitcher of cool water. And off went the servant, obedient to the king's command. On the riverbank, the servant knelt down to fill the pitcher when suddenly, overhead, he heard some fluttering wings. And a beautiful bird hovered above him and began to sing. The water quite forgotten, the servant listened and then began to sway and dance to the beautiful music. Meanwhile, back home, the king was getting cross and longing more and more for his drink of cool water. So he called for his wife, the queen. Wife, he said, do go and find out what has happened to my servant. And off she went, obedient to the king's command. As she drew near the riverbank, the queen heard the beautiful singing and was soon joining in the swaying and dancing with the servants. Meanwhile, back home the king was getting crosser and longing more and more for his drink of cool water. So he called for his son, the prince. "Son," he said, "do go and find out what's happened to the servant and your mother, the queen." And off went the prince, obedient to the king's command. As he drew near the riverbank, he heard the beautiful music and soon joined in the swaying and dancing with the servant and his mother. Back home, the king grew more and more impatient. "Bother," he said. "I shall go myself and find out what's happened to my servant, my wife the queen, my son the prince, and my pitcher of water." As he drew near the riverbank, the king too heard the singing of the beautiful bird. He saw his servant, the queen, and the prince swaying and dancing to the music. And soon he was moved to join in. And as the bird sang his beautiful song, the king danced too. And as he danced, the king thought, "I must have this bird for my own. No other king has anything like it, and people will come from miles around to hear this wonder." And the king whispered to his servant to catch the bird. The bird was caught, and all was silent on the riverbank. The king took the bird from the servant. "Sing, bird, sing." But the bird was silent. "Sing, bird, sing," begged the servant. But the bird was silent. "Why won't you sing?" asked the queen. But the bird was silent still. "You must sing for my father," said the prince, "for my father is a mighty king." But the bird still kept silent. At last the king, his son the prince, and his wife the queen started back home. The king was still cross. But the servant stayed behind on the riverbank, coaxing the bird to sing. But it wouldn't. Instead, the beautiful bird gazed around, and he kept his song for himself. The servant thought, "The bird doesn't sing because he's been captured. I must set him free." The bird lifted his wings and soared into the air and sang and sang and sang. And he's singing still, for all we know. The bit I liked best was right at the end, where the bird sang and sang and sang. You know, if you tell a story again without looking at the book, it'll come out differently. Some older children retold our story with African music. Oh, I'm hot. I must fan myself again. In Africa, the sun burnt down, white hot. So hot, the king called his servant. He wanted him to fetch some water from the river. As the servant scooped the water from the river, a beautiful bird began to sing, and the servant began to dance. The king was getting cross.
Queen!
So he told the queen to go and find out what was happening. The queen heard the beautiful singing and joined in the dance. The king was getting crosser, and this time he called for his son, the prince. He told him to go and find out what was happening. prince heard the beautiful singing. And he joined in the dancing too. By now, the king was getting really cross. So he went himself to find out what was happening. The king heard the beautiful singing, and he too joined in the dance. The king told the servant to catch the bird. Immediately, the bird stopped singing.
Sing. Sing. Sing.
Nobody could make the bird sing again, so the king took his family home. The bird looked round and saw that other creatures like lions and elephants were free. The servant thought, the bird doesn't sing because he's been captured, so I must free him. The bird soared into the air and he sang and sang and sang. I'm glad the singing bird flew away, aren't you? I'm making a bird cake now to feed the birds in the garden. I've got some soft cooking fat and some little bits of food like cheese, nuts, porridge oats, fruit, whatever you've got spare at home, but nothing too salty. And I'm breaking up the food into smaller pieces so it's easier for the birds to eat. And then you stick little bits of food into the cooking fat. Now, wherever you put your bird cake, make sure it's well out of the reach of any cats that may be around. And also, give the birds some water in a shallow container. Now, let's put the bird cake and the water on the bird table and see what happens. Well, I can't stay here, otherwise the birds won't come. And I must keep very still, otherwise the birds will be frightened away. I wonder what we'll see. Bye. Ooh, there's a pigeon. It's got a green neck. They're a bit greedy pigeons, really. Ah, that's a missel thrush. We don't see those very often. Quite lucky seeing one of those today. Ooh. King of the bird cake.